Hello, everyone. Welcome to the quarterly call of Dashcore Group Q4 2020. My name is Robert Więcko, and I will be your host here. Ryan Taylor will facilitate the call. Please go ahead, Ryan.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is the Q4 2020 summary call. Usually what we like to do in Q4 is also kind of take a step back and look at the overall year in context and our growth over time. And so we'll be doing some of that as well. As we kind of kick off here, I have to say it was a exciting quarter. There was a lot happening and we have a lot to cover. And, you know, I think there are a lot of questions on the community's minds that we've seen in some of the questions that have come through. So we will cover as much of it as we can. And of course, as with previous question and answer sessions, we'll handle any remaining questions in written form over the coming couple of days. So with that, we can start to move into the slides here. All right, so a few things about the call, if you could go back. We are recording this and it will be shared in our Dash YouTube channel. We do have microphones muted, so you'll need to use the chat window in order to submit any questions. We will be collecting those throughout the call and attempt to answer any additional questions that we can at the end. And so, yeah, with that, we can go ahead and get started. So normally at the start of these calls, we cover a little bit about Dash's strategy or Dash Core Group's strategy for growing Dash, talk a little bit about the Dash ecosystem and so on. I'm going to run through those slides fairly quickly. Most of the folks in the audience have seen this portion of the presentation many times before. And if you want to go in greater depth on this section, I would encourage you to watch one of our previous quarterly calls. And we typically go into much greater detail on those. So if we could flip to the next slide. So Dash Core Group's mission and vision. This is something that we've updated recently, so I'll spend a little bit of time here if you didn't catch the last quarterly call. We had defined a mission and vision back in 2015 for Dash as a whole. And we took that and we kind of refined it and explicitly made it about Dash Core Group and our mission within the network as we envision it and our vision statement for what we plan to provide. And so because it is updated and new, I'll cover it a little bit here. Our mission is to deliver greater financial freedom by delivering financial solutions that are secure, reliable, decentralized, and usable for all. And all of those components are very important. Being secure, of course, is an absolute must. Reliability is an absolute must. Decentralized is something that we're very committed to. It's the reason that platform is being built the way that it is. And usable for all. Usability, we believe, is one of the greatest issues facing mainstream adoption for cryptocurrencies. And we've seen time and time again with other technologies, when you make it more usable and more accessible and more relevant to people, it really does help it to grow. And then in terms of our vision statement, we iterate those same mission and values. And we get very specific about what it is that we're developing. Fungible currency that offers speed, reliability, and optional privacy for both physical and online transactions. It's very important to have speed for physical transactions, and that's something that we've delivered on and improved over the years with our instant send technology being incorporated into every transaction, making it more efficient so we could remove some of the associated fees, et cetera. Fostering a robust ecosystem of financial products and services. It's one thing to have a great currency, but if you can't use it to do anything, that doesn't deliver a lot of value to consumers or merchants. So we do have a business development team that's committed to doing those things. We collaborate with service providers like exchanges and processors to enable the Dash specific functionality. Again, if exchanges don't honor instant send transactions on their incoming deposits, it doesn't really improve the user experience. So we need to continuously reach out to new service providers that integrate with Dash and advocate for them recognizing that these transactions are instant. And we cultivate the adoption of that ecosystem through education, promotion, public relations, engagement, these types of activities. And so that's what DCG is all about and what we're doing to contribute to Dash. So this is a slide that many of you have seen many, many times, so I won't spend a lot of time here. We do have focus areas that we're concentrating on for growing our ecosystem, particularly Venezuela, remittances, and trading have been the areas that we've seen the greatest success and have really doubled down. The second column here is around the product, like what is it that we want to do or build. And there's different groups that we're serving here, from developers to individuals, but we try to consciously develop in a way where we're incorporating functionality, reliability, ease of use, and a little bit of that delightful, fun experience, and frankly, social experience that we're incorporating with platform. And lastly, the technology. What are the components of our technology? Well, most cryptocurrency networks are strictly that layer one, the payments themselves. Our peers in the industry primarily have that layer. Layer two is data. This is what platform will bring to the network. It allows for data and messages to be stored within the network. And layer three is then the applications that ride on that network and depend on it for that layer two data and layer one payments. And so an example of this is DashPay, which will allow for the creation of usernames and the transactions themselves. You'll be able to store profile information, share that information with others. So this is all part of a broad strategy across the product, the technology necessary to deliver that product, and the ecosystem that we're developing in association with this product. So this is very high level what we're aiming to do. So at this point, we can talk a little bit about the market performance. And if we flip to the next slide, this was a very strong quarter for Dash. Typically, in a typical quarter, you might see a mix of red and green on our growth rates here. And on a quarter-on-quarter basis or a year-on-year basis, some signaling strength and some signaling a bit of weakness. But this quarter is probably the strongest I've seen in a long, long time. There's a lot of focus on price typically in the market, and we tend to look at a broader set of metrics that we believe are important to measure the adoption that is taking place on our network. And these are some of the key metrics that we do track. And what you'll notice here is almost everything in our users and usage columns were green. The one exception is addresses greater than $1 in our year-on-year column. That's not a true representation because we didn't capture that metric exactly on January 1st, and we can't find it tracked anywhere. So January 1st of 2020, we did not capture it, and the price went up later in the month of January when we did capture it. By then, it had crossed $100, and that caused a large number of private send inputs to become worth more than $1. And so it's not a true year-on-year comparison. In all likelihood, we saw strong growth there against the real number as well. And so let's run through some of these. Daily volatility of price did increase during the quarter, though it wasn't out of line with what we typically see over the years. But it did jump up a little bit. But it jumped up due to a good cause. I mean, the price was increasing significantly on a number of days. In terms of our users, strong signal here that we've seen user growth. Daily active addresses moved up. That's driven a lot by the use of private send, but and so it doesn't tend to move a lot from quarter to quarter, but it did move up 2.5% this quarter. Installed wallets on active devices, strong growth here, 69% growth year on year, and a little over 25% in the quarter. 142,000 wallets. This is only mobile wallets, by the way, and for iOS and Android. And it does not include third-party wallets. It doesn't include multi-currency wallets. It doesn't include the Dash Electrum wallet. And so this is just the Dash wallet that DCG introduced to the market. Next up is unspent UTXOs. That grew during the quarter, up about 8% year on year. And then that address count, total addresses greater than $1, was up about 5%. In terms of usage, here we saw strong growth across the board as well. Average daily traded volume on the exchanges went up about 48%. This is a filtered number. It's a subset of exchanges that Coinmetrics believes the metrics to be true. And so, you know, if you go on CoinMarketCap or something like that, you're going to see a much larger number than this. But this is one that they believe is far more accurate. And here we saw almost 300% gains over the fourth quarter of 2019. Adjusted TPV, this is a adjusted payment volume. This is a metric that attempts to strip out money coming back to a change address and money paid from one set of addresses in a wallet to another. That was up about 44% during the quarter. Economic transactions increased about 3.6%. We do track this metric, but we actually like median economic transactions per day for a reason I'll explain in a moment, but that metric did go up as well. Private send usage was up about 4%. Most of these numbers are records. Daily active addresses is a record. Installed wallets is a record. Unspent UTXOs is a record. Trading volume is a record. And adjusted TPV is up. It's not a record, but it's up significantly. And so private send usage is at an all-time high. So we really have seen like very strong growth in actual activity on our network, which is great to see. Now, for comparison purposes, we like to use median economic transactions per day. And the reason why we like that metric is it strips out the effects of unusual activity like a stress test that is run. That can drive up the number of economic transactions for the quarter, but it doesn't really affect the median economic transactions per day. all that much. And so it's a far more consistent read on the usage of the network on a typical day. That grew double digits during the quarter, 11%. And year on year, the growth rate was 37%. So very good, strong numbers there. And you compare that to some of our like-minded comparisons to Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. You see a bit of a mix there with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash in terms of the metrics. Litecoin really exploded here primarily due to a game that they introduced that uses a large number of transactions. It's really unclear how to strip those out and determine what the true quarter-on-quarter comparison would look like. But certainly that game, it's called Light something. I can't remember the name, but it drove a huge increase in the transaction volume there. And so, in terms of transactions, most of the signs are pointing to the fact that we are picking up share in terms of the transaction activities across these payment-oriented type of coins. And then the last section here is market. There's a couple interesting things to note here. The circulating supply is something that we've recently started tracking, and the circulating supply we're defining as supply that is not tied up in a masternode. And so these are coins that are free to be on an exchange or circulating in the Dash economy. And what we've seen is that in prior years, the circulating supply was growing faster and faster. And that was correlated with Dash's price performance. And it really was too high. We went through activity over the course of the last year in identifying a mechanism to be able to control for that and reduce that circulating supply growth rate. So we're tracking it now. In Q4, that was implemented, and the circulating supply has dropped to circulating supply growth rate has dropped to a multi-year low of 11%. And it continues to trend in the right direction. Our goal is to get that down below 10%. We'll probably hit that this quarter. And that helps Dash perform better as a store of value. And so, we are looking forward to the full effects of that kicking in. I think the second reallocation that takes place in the reward structure between miners and masternodes is going to happen at the end of February. And that's really what we expect to drive the change in behavior on the network. So now we get down to price and market cap. Price was up 45% during the quarter, ended just below $100. And the market cap was up 47% during the quarter to just under $1 billion. So if we could switch to the next slide. Here's the graphic representation of the last 5 quarters. We do present all of these numbers for the last 5 quarters in the appendix. So after the call, when we release all of the slides, you'll be able to go to the appendix and see how all of these metrics compared to previous quarters. But here's a visual representation of some of those. You'll notice median transactions per day have just been on a consistent growth path. The mobile wallet installs has been on a consistent growth path. And so we really do like the adoption rate that seems to be occurring. Now I'd like to cover some of the longer term trends. As I mentioned earlier, circulating supply growth continued to increase year after year. And in December 2019, after some analysis of this situation, I did present at our open house in December 2019 what the issue was, why it was important to address, and some initial ideas about how we might go about addressing it. In June of 2019, we put forward our proposed solution, held a number of sessions with the community via video, via Reddit, via Twitter, etc., to be able to address questions and garner support for the proposal. That proposal went up in Q3 of this year, and the proposal passed. We implemented it in our latest major core release, and that went to the network, was released to the network in September. It was fully adopted by the network and activated. The change was activated in early November, and the first reallocation took place after the super block at the end of November. And you can see here that our circulating supply growth dramatically changed in 2020. And if we go to the next slide, this is a zoom in on the last 5 quarters. And what you see is that immediately after the issue was raised, there was a significant improvement in Q1 in the year-on-year circulating supply growth rate. It continued to trend a little bit in the right direction for the next couple of quarters. And then when we implemented the change in Q4, it really brought that down. And so it is trending towards the 10% target. I believe that after the second reallocation, it should finally get us there. And this really puts us in a position to be able to compete. Our growth rate in circulating supply was just growing way too fast, and it had the effect of essentially causing inflation in a dramatic fashion. And so bringing this down was very important for us to accomplish as a community. I thank everybody for the support. I hope that this continues trending in the right directions. It's simple economics, it should. And so we'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to report it. And our goal here is to be transparent about whether or not our proposal was successful in addressing this issue. And so far, it looks like even bringing the solution, proposing the solution, or identifying the issue had an effect, and actually addressing it has had a big effect. So thanks to everybody that supported us as we went through that process. So where are we with the overall set of things that we were planning on doing with the store of value updates that we wanted to perform to the network? We just covered in detail the reward reallocation. That is now locked in and is taking place. The first reallocation took place in late November. So that piece was completed in Q4. The next up was the proposal system changes themselves. Here we were looking to do 2 things. One is to expand the maximum proposal allocation that the network could provide to proposal owners. And the second was to change the way in which the protocol allocated unused budget. Currently, it just never gets created. And we had proposed a mechanism that would incentivize masternodes to economically incentivize them to restrict spending if the price of Dash were to increase significantly. Now, there was a complicated process associated with this that took place during the quarter. And that is because DCG was putting forward a proposal that many MNOs did not agree with, and they wanted to put forward a separate proposal. So we went through a 2-step process similar to what we've gone through in the past when multiple options were being presented to the network. In the November cycle, the DCG originated proposal and the MNO originated proposal went head to head in a vote. The outcome of that vote was that the DCG originated plan garnered a larger number of net votes. And therefore, in the December cycle, we voted again. And in order to compare the DCG plan against the existing proposal system. In order to pass, we needed the 10% net votes. And the proposal did generate positive net votes, but it wasn't sufficient to change the protocol. And so, we analyzed kind of the feedback that came in during that process. And the no votes seem to be originating from two concerns. The first concern is, well, if you financially incentivize masternodes to not spend the full budget, or have a financial skin in the game for whether a proposal gets funded or not, there is a real danger that the masternodes would become too cheap, frankly, and start defunding everything, and that would be disastrous for Dash. The second argument was, or the second objection was, well, if the total budget size is larger, in other words, the maximum budget becomes larger, the masternodes are likely to spend it all. The challenging thing is, of course, both of those things cannot happen. They cannot defund everything and fund everything. And so essentially, we by linking those two elements of the proposal together, we basically generated twice as many no votes. And so we're considering what the right path forward is on this. On the one hand, the network may be having protocol proposal fatigue, and now may not be the best time to do it. But it might be worth considering breaking that proposal into its two constituent parts. And if we were to do that, I believe the best path forward would be to put forward the proposal that would financially incentivize masternodes not to spend it all. And if that garners the supermajority support that is required for a proposal to pass, we would implement that first and pause there, because this would allow the network to operate under that protocol for a period of time. If it functioned as intended without causing the masternodes to go too far the other way with defunding things that are valuable, I think that would go a long way to addressing the second set of concerns that masternodes might start spending the full budget if the budget were expanded. It would give us the opportunity to see what would happen in a bull market, for example, and whether or not the masternodes ramped up spending or continued to kind of keep that restrained. In my view, it seems unlikely that either of these fears would manifest themselves. Masternodes, after all, have at least 1,000 Dash. So defunding everything doesn't seem like it would be in their best interest. I think we all know what that could do to the project. And so it's a bit like picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. It might seem like a good short-term decision, but I don't think it would last very long, even if it were attempted. And then the second concern would be addressed based on the observation of whether or not the masternodes are spending the full budget in a bull run. And so, I do think that both of those concerns are unlikely to manifest themselves. And sorry, to elaborate a little bit on the risk that masternodes might spend everything, we already see behavior from the masternodes restraining our current budget and maintaining that well below the limits, to the point that proposals that are there that could pass are not passing. And so I do think that it continues to be in the best interest of the network to consider the elements of that proposal, even if it's not considering them together. But that's my opinion. And I think that what would be a prudent move at this point is to engage with the community more on this topic. This is a topic I would be eager to discuss, and I plan to set up some scheduled sessions of times that I can spend with the community in Discord, Reddit, or other venues, Telegram, and make myself available for that feedback and discussion, and let's work through the best path forward here together. I do think there's value in addressing it, but I'm also a bit wary of yet more contentious protocol changing proposals coming one right after the other. And so, yeah, I'll be looking to the community to kind of engage with me on this one, and help solve this dilemma. And then that brings us to voting thresholds. This was the next topic that we're planning on addressing. If we move forward with some of the proposal system changes, it might cause some delays with the voting threshold addressing, or we may make the decision to move on and try to address the next improvement that we identified here, which is really this declining voter participation and the effects that that has on the robustness of our proposal system. We're exploring a number of options. New ones have come to the fore since our last quarterly call, including entirely different approaches. But I think we should make a decision about the proposal system changes before we get to exploring those solutions for the voting threshold, because I just think taking on too many things at once might not be wise. So that's where we are with the body of work around store of value. It has been a ton of effort that's gone into some of these, and I look forward to continuing to engage with the community on them. Moving on to other metrics. The users, as I said, this is a graph of the wallets on active devices. And what you see here is consistent growth since the end of 2018. And we actually re-accelerated. You can see that steeper curve at the end there, and now have over 142,000 mobile wallets installed on active devices. So great to see this number continuing to move up. This next slide is unspent transaction outputs. Again, you can see, very consistent growth over the years. We now have over 4.6 million UTXOs at year-end 2020. And there was a slight acceleration in growth here during the entire year. Trading volume. This has been an incredible success for Dash, and a big reversal of some downward trends that we were seeing the last couple of years. Trading volume actually exceeded the trading volume in 2017. And that trading growth strategy that we've been pursuing is truly working. One of the things that we did differently in 2020 from prior years is, instead of focusing exclusively on Instant Send and getting that integrated, we did an evaluation of the entire trading ecosystem. Bots, analytics tools, custody, staking services, et cetera, and built out an ecosystem and started communicating that to traders. And I think that had a big effect. We kind of came to the realization it's not just about the spot markets and being able to arbitrage. It requires all of these tools and other assets that traders use. They stake their assets over overnight or over a weekend or something when they're not actively trading, and so being an attractive coin for that purpose required a much broader approach. And so you see here that we believe that that's having a significant impact. Payment volumes also rebounded, not to the level that we saw in 2017, 2018, which was right at that peak of the last bubble, but we did see a significant uptick from 2019. The ratio of payment volume per transaction does continue to decrease. So if you look at the total payment volume versus the number of transactions, the average size of a transaction has dropped significantly. And what that's indicative of is more actual use, for transacting, and less of the speculative investor that's moving, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars through the network at a time. And so we did rebound up to about 5.5 billion in adjusted TPV. Again, the adjusted number attempts to strip out a lot of, portions of the transaction that are change and other metrics, but adjusted TPV was quite strong during 2020. And of course, we saw continued growth in transactions. This was actually the 10th. We're in now our 10th consecutive quarter of growth. I've put our quarter to date metric on there. That's through just the other day. And we're seeing now on a typical day, 29,000 transactions in a typical day. And over 24,000 of those are economic transactions. That strips out Coinbase transactions. It strips out private send mixing. That's kind of just self movement of funds within a wallet. And so by any metric here, we've had extremely strong growth. And we're very proud of the usage numbers that we continue to see here. So that wraps up the metrics, and I hope you liked the long-term perspective that we're providing on this call. It's not something that we do on every quarterly call, but I think those graphics really illustrate what some of our key metrics are showing. And when I say key metrics, these were not cherry-picked. These were the metrics that we feel are most important: wallets, transactions, TPV. There aren't more important metrics than those. And so these were not cherry-picked just because they happen to be growing. These are the metrics that we as an organization have said are important for the network to grow. So with that, I'll say a couple more words. The exciting news, there's some exciting news on the product front on a couple different areas. One of them is, and we'll obviously get into this in the tech update, but one of them is, of course, during Q4, we released to testnet, and that testnet release provides for the user experience that you can expect when we hit mainnet. It has all of the basic functionality that is user-facing, the ability to create a username, the ability to make friends and contacts, the ability to pay those contacts. There is work remaining that isn't necessarily user-facing, but falls in the categories of greater security, greater stability, greater scalability, providing for developer tools, things like incorporating more descriptive error messages for all the potential errors that could occur. performance metric, improving the performance. So there's a good chunk of work that is left to get it ready for mainnet. And then, of course, we have things like the final security checks and rollout planning and those types of things. We did experience some stability issues when we first launched to testnet. I believe there were 3 instances of crashes of the network or chain halts in which the network required basically a remediation in order to get it functioning again and have the consensus working properly. They were 3 unique issues, and the team worked hard to resolve those. We've had a stable testnet now for a few weeks, and the team is starting to transition into some of this other work that I just described at this point. And so, we've got a good body of people that are there, that are testing it, that are attempting to break it. We've had evidence that there's people attempting to delete things that aren't supposed to be deletable, and really running it through its rigors and identifying any issues or error codes or things like that need remediation. And so we thank the community for that. It's really helpful for us for being able to make a stable product. And the news that everyone is waiting for is, when will we have a release candidate? And the answer to that is, we're aiming to have a release candidate that includes all of the elements that I just described on testnet next quarter. And we will begin planning for the rollout to mainnet as soon as we feel like everything has been thoroughly tested and ready to go. So that's kind of where we are on that development process. You should not expect any major changes from here in terms of the user experience. So, if you haven't done so yet, testnet is a great place to start to experiment with this and learn how it works. And so that's the big news on that front. We'll go into more detail on the tech update, as I said. And then the second thing that I wanted to raise with the community is, and I will go into greater detail on this as well, is that we do feel that it's in our best interest to rename one of our features, which is Private Send. I will talk about the reasons for that, but at a very high level, this is causing undue issues with the regulators, to the point that when we translate the phrase private send into other languages, oftentimes it doesn't translate perfectly. It translates more into a word that's similar to anonymity. In many languages, it has a nefarious type of connotation to it. This has a direct impact on our ability to be listed on exchanges and incorporated into money services and things of that nature. We have renamed the feature before. It was previously called Dark Send, which understandably caused even greater issues. And we plan on aligning ourselves closer with the CoinJoin implementations on other networks. It helps the regulators to understand it. It's very frustrating to spend a ton of time with a regulator making all the logical arguments and having the response be, well, yeah, but I don't know if I believe any of that because it's called Private Send. And so we are not proposing changing Private Send itself, the technology itself. And in fact, we've been having a lot of internal discussions about how we can enhance it. And so we are committed to privacy, but we're making the practical recognition that this feature name is one that is causing the community harm. And so, this is something that we're proposing doing in an upcoming release of Core. I recognize that this is a somewhat sensitive topic. We're doing our best to kind of address these concerns because, Glenn and myself and the business development team, Ernesto and Omar, we're having conversations with these exchanges and regulators and see firsthand the effect that it can have. And with that point of view, we feel strongly as a management team as a whole that this is the right move to make. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the tech update. I'm happy to take questions on it as well. Reiterating once again, we are not changing our commitment to privacy. We believe strongly that it is important for user safety reasons, for human rights reasons. So this is not something that we take lightly. And in fact, renaming it may allow us to pursue some of our goals to improve it without facing nearly the type of consequences that we're facing today. And so we think it actually benefits users as well. So I will pause there and kind of take the back seat here for the rest of the team. Let's go through the financials for Dash Core Group, and then we'll get into the tech update with Bob.
Great.
Glenn,
thanks, Ryan.
will you take this?
Yeah, I'll cover this. I'm Glenn Austin, and I'll provide you with an update on our full year 2020 results. First, some of the typical disclosures. So all of our accounting is conducted in USD to provide a stable picture of our financials. And since we are using mark-to-market accounting for our holdings of Dash, we are not reporting in accordance with US GAAP. All right, so let's see. What are we going to cover here today? First, we're going to go through the balance sheet, looking at our reserves as of the end of 2020. We will also discuss how we plan to deploy the funds in our balance sheet on behalf of the network in 2021. Following that, we will review the income statement, where we'll go through our compensation and non-compensation spend. And this will be more of like a standard look back at our expense structure in 2020. And finally, we'll kind of summarize how this past year went from a financial perspective, and take an early peek at how 2021 is shaping up. So why don't we start with this page by reviewing the balance sheet. Total assets increased 31% year over year to approximately 1.3 million. A full 82% of our assets as of December 31st resided in core team salaries. As you can see, that account held just over $1 million. Of that amount, roughly 100,000 is related to compensation accrued in December that hadn't been paid out as of the end of the year. And additionally, we have to take out roughly 220,000 for the expected salary payments for January 2021. So after those adjustments, the overall reserve in our compensation account is now roughly 3 months of salary expense, which is a new milestone, right? I've been kind of harping around that 3-month salary reserve for a while now, and I'm happy to announce that we finally set aside that minimum amount we have been targeting for the last few years. Today, February 4th, our reserve is in even better shape. It's at 3.6 months of compensation, but that isn't really reflected in any of these numbers, as we are reporting on a 1-month lag. So as long as the price of Dash stays above roughly $85 to $90, we will continue to build up that reserve until we reach our 6-month target. Moving on to business development. Most of the $62,000 in business development have now been committed to integrations and promotional activities that will occur over the next 4 to 5 months. We do anticipate topping up that account by submitting a proposal to the network for additional funding in the next 3 budget cycles, I would say. On the marketing and travel front, we ended the year at roughly 23,000. Obviously, because of COVID, hasn't been much travel at all. Right now, we are aggressively recruiting a new marketing head. And in anticipation of this new hire joining and to kind of start budgeting for the release of mainnet, we plan on submitting a marketing proposal for roughly half of the non-compensation budget in this upcoming budget cycle. So in addition to kind of replenishing our marketing budget, our legal budget also needs to be topped up. So, with the anticipated increase in legal expenses, we would love to, submit that to the network and request the network to approve the funding. As many of you know, and Ryan has kind of alluded to it as well, we are currently engaged in kind of countering the U.S. government's erroneous claim that Dash is an anonymity enhanced cryptocurrency. And I know Ryan is going to dive into that during a regulatory update in much more detail later on in the call. On the bottom of the slide, we kind of have our liabilities. We have 113,000 in accrued liabilities that had not been paid out as of the end of December 31st. And as mentioned, 2/3 of that amount is related to salaries accrued in December that were paid out in early January 2021. In 2020, for the full year, we generated net income of 129,000 after tax. Next slide, please. All right, let's go through the income statement. So Dash Core Group received $3.3 million from the Dash network in 2020. This is 22% less than in 2019. Revenue exceeded expenses before exchange losses and taxes by approximately $250,000. At $2.5 million, 83% of our expenses were related to compensation. Overall compensation expense was lower by 19% compared to 2019. And this was really a result of a combination of volunteers offering to work for significantly reduced salaries, headcount reductions, as well as us not backfilling any subcontractors who had left the project. We had approximately $500,000 in non-compensation expenses in 2020. This is also drastically less than what we spent in 2019. These expenses were for professional fees, business development, rent expense, marketing and travel expenses, as well as general and admin expenses. We did get rid of our office space in 2020, so we will incur minimal expenses related to rent in the future, kind of just the cost of maintaining a private mailbox here in Arizona. In 2020, we did recognize a loss of $45,000 as a result of the depreciation of Dash held on our balance sheet. This loss is generated by a timing difference between kind of receiving the funds from the network and then the lag it takes to liquidate the Dash in the open market. As a policy since 2018, we have been liquidating the remainder of Dash we received from the network over a 1-month period. We also paid out our federal and state taxes in the third quarter of 2020 in the amount of roughly $80,000. And as mentioned on previous quarterly calls, our net payments to federal and state governments has been less than 2% of the total revenue we receive from the Dash network. So that really demonstrates how efficiently we've been managing our financials and that we do have an efficient tax structure. As I mentioned, net income was $129,000 in 2020. So in summary, our financial position is really continuing to improve. We're putting away, stocking away funds as long as that price remains above $85. We have at last been able to kind of rebuild our compensation reserve above our minimum target of 3 months of expense. And at current prices, we should continue to replenish our reserves to kind of withstand any future potential downturns in the markets. We also anticipate being able to ramp up spend prudently if we continue to experience an increase in the price of Dash. And overall, I think our financial position is stronger than it has been in years. So, we're in really good shape, and I'm happy with how things are shaping up from a financial perspective right now. So yeah, that concludes the financial portion of this update. Bob, you're next with the tech update.
Great, thanks, Glenn, appreciate it. Well, we ended 2020 meeting our primary objective to deliver Dash platform to testnet. The quarter itself was filled with significant deliverables from each of our product teams, as you can see on this slide. In core, during Q4, we had our first change to the block reward allocation. So it bumped the non-treasury share of masternode rewards from 50% to 51.3%. I know that wasn't like current development efforts that did that, but that was based on all the good work that had been done in Q3. So these changes will now occur every 3 months, with the next one actually occurring this month in February. So the big effort by the core devs was the development of a new quorum type and support for other Dash platform requirements, including some protections between layer 1 and layer 2. We also merged the changes associated with DIP 20 for additional opcodes, and I'll mention that on a subsequent slide. On platform, the platform team finished the year with 2 more releases in Q4, culminating in the release of V17, which is what we pushed to testnet. And as you can see from the slide, there were several features included in each of those releases to push us closer to being ready for our MVP release. The effort to get to testnet was absolutely significant, and kudos go out to all the members of really throughout the organization and the community who helped in the effort. And although the Dash platform had been running in a public DevNet, which we called EvoNet, this change really marked new levels of scale, visibility, and reliability expected from the product. The mobile team had the most releases by a product team in the quarter. The iOS Dash wallet had a couple of releases on mainnet, and the Android wallet actually had 3 releases in the quarter. In addition to the support of our existing mobile wallets, we developed new functionality in the Dash Pay wallet. We developed the ability to store and update profile pictures from various sources, and we also developed the ability to pay to usernames, which was demonstrated to the community in a video that you can pull up and retrieve. So I'd really like to thank each member of our delivery teams that crosses developers and product management and infrastructure and Scrum Masters. I mean, it takes a real village to do this each time. And thank them for their collaboration and their standard of quality and focus on getting these pushed out to the network at a very consistent and reliable pace. I think that's what's expected from the community. The expectations they're high, and they just the pressure never lets up. And especially in Q4, I know that it's a personal sacrifice to have major deliverables at the end of the year since it's the holiday season. But I can say I'm proud of the work and proud to work with each of these developers. If we go to the next slide, we'll look at some of the great software design work that was done in the quarter, which complemented the great software development work. And it leaves us with some artifacts of the design in the fact that we have 5 Dash improvement proposals that were delivered to the community in Q4. And they can be found in the DIPS repository on GitHub. The first 4 DIPs that you'll see there were led by Quantum and Hash, or Sam and Eric, if you will. And special thanks went out on all of those, on some of those to Alex, Andre, Andrew, Andy, Baloo, Brian, Lefez, and Evan. So these are important ideas as they document key attributes of our wallets and the handling of identities and wallet performance. And so thank you for that. And Sam published a great blog post to support it as well. A 5th DIP was published and is notable since that's DIP 20 on the opcode updates. It's notable because it was the first completely community-sponsored DIP. And thanks go out to Mart Mangus for proposing these additional opcodes to Dash Core, which are in the process of being included in V17. We'd love to see more DIPs come from the community, so I'll put that out as a call, and that's why I wanted to call it out in particular. We will see 2 additional DIPs that should get published this quarter as well. One on asset locking, which is some of the core requirements to support identity funding, and the other one on the DKG data sharing for long living masternode quorums. So that work has primarily been done by those on the platform team and some of the names mentioned, as well as members of the core team, including Kevin. So let's move on to take a look at mobile. And our wallets are often the most tangible piece of the Dash network. And as such, our work within the mobile team is critical for a smooth user experience and a desire to transact with Dash. In Q1, we'll be adding flexibility to our current wallet, the Android wallet, in terms of ability to purchase Dash with Visa. That will be a feature only available outside of the US. And with wallet swaps, users will be able to purchase Dash with other cryptocurrencies they own, or accept other cryptocurrencies from others, which will automatically be converted or swapped for Dash. And for clarity, these features will be delivered to our existing mobile app, Dash Wallet, the Android version specifically. In addition, work will continue on our next generation wallet, DashPay. Our development of the invitation feature begins this quarter, which will allow a user to easily invite new users and cover their identity creation fee. And our alpha program is strong. It's quite active right now with hundreds of users. Our current Android version is now running against testnet that occurred at the end of last week. And the iOS version will be running shortly against testnet also. So if you haven't signed up for the alpha program yet, please visit our website. There's a page that's accessible off of our homepage. There's a learn more link, I believe, that will take you to the DashPay alpha program site. So we're excited about it. Let's look at what's going on outside of Dash Core Group. So not only are the mobile developers inside of DCG excited about platform's progress, but so is the DApp developer community. The Dash DApp incubator is now 11 months old, has an engaged group of developers, and has a bounty system, which is just a great investment in the Dash network as developers come together to build the next generation of decentralized apps on top of Dash. So several dApps have been developed as reference apps for common scenarios such as e-commerce or point of sale. In addition, there's under development right now is a direct messaging dApp, conveniently called What's dApp, and a token manager dApp as well. Those are in development, and you can learn more about them in the Discord community. However, some of the more mature dApps have already migrated and are running on testnet. And that's what I'm really excited about. So we recognize the great effort by all of the individuals who started and are running the Dash incubator program right now. So this slide highlights a few of those dApps. Djembe is a decentralized blockchain Twitter alternative. And I think a great use case that demonstrates the power and flexibility of Dash platform. Dashcraft is a Dash integrated Minecraft plugin. The main feature is that all items are stored on platform, on Dash platform, all your Minecraft creations in a specific Dash, in a specific data contract as a non-fungible token. And there's then a browser dApp to go back and be able to view your Minecraft creations. And so it really stores those in a decentralized environment. Evo Wallet is a fast, easy, web-based Dash wallet that allows signing. And so a user can connect and authorize web dApps with the wallet, which stores your identity and signs all the data that you create in any Dash dApp. It avoids the need for browser extensions like MetaMask. And so we're very excited about the Evo Wallet dApp. And Platform Console allows a user to create a Dash platform wallet, an identity, a username, contract, and documents, all from a web browser, all without coding. I think this is a great tool to help developers onboard into the Dash community and understand some of the basic structures around Dash platforms. So that was something that had been originally created inside of the DCG team and then handed off to the community for managing. That's running against testnet as well. And then a Chrome wallet extension. So this is a Chrome extension for wallet, identity, and username creation. And you can also do contract and document retrieval as a developer to see what's going on inside a Dash platform. So very excited about what's been happening in the incubator. The last slide we'll look at is our roadmap. And I'm going to cover each of our 3 development teams, core, platform, and mobile, looking at the next couple quarters of delivery. This should be a familiar format for you as we've been using this for the last several quarters. And on core, what we're looking at right now is the next couple of quarters as we prepare to move, or as we prepare version 17, which is under development, to move from testnet to mainnet, because we put the first release candidate on testnet in December. We continue to do development. We released release candidate 3 this week, a little bit earlier this week. And we will have an additional release candidate prior to being complete, and that should be delivered in early March. The majority of the development effort that's in V17 is in support really of Dash platform features. We have a huge effort to finish up our Bitcoin version 17 backports, so that's been a significant effort. And as I mentioned, DIP20 and additional opcode support in there as well. As Ryan mentioned, we will be renaming Private Send, which will not include any feature changes. So I just want to emphasize that. It's only a difference in how the feature is labeled within the app. And our expectation is to have a final release candidate of V17 on testnet in early March, and followed by a move to mainnet at the end of the month. Next quarter for core, we will be in a migration period since V17 will be a hard fork due to the additional opcodes and special transaction that are included in it. So in addition to being in a migration period, we will be doing development. The priority of core's development will be associated with the requirements and protections from Dash platform in preparation for their mainnet launch. And then we have future work that's in our backlog that, that's represented over on the other side of the screen. It's currently being prioritized. We recognize that some of it may require community feedback, but that just gives you a little bit of glimpse into other topics that will be coming up in future quarterly calls. So let's take a look at platform. For the next 2 quarters, we will deliver updates to testnet on 6-week cycles, like we did throughout 2020. Version 18 that we're working on right now is expected to be on testnet by mid-February, and version 19 at the end of the quarter. And these will all, again, these are no longer going to an EvoNet environment. These are all going directly to testnet. You can see that there's several features in development for greater security, greater reliability, and faster performance. In Q2, we will finalize some of the key features and deployment decisions. This is the last body of development work before we move into final preparations for our mainnet release. The decision to move Dash platform to mainnet will be based on performance during stress and vulnerability testing over the next few months. So that doesn't mean we're waiting to stress the environment. Doesn't mean we're waiting to look for vulnerabilities. Those things happened and are happening right now. So the mere fact that we're on testnet means that this is already underway. Once we get V21 to testnet, it'll only be emphasized, right? That's when we'll go in very hardcore on stress and security testing there. So we'll be judicious, obviously, in our move to mainnet, ensuring that it meets our standards for quality and reliability. And I'm pleased with the level of reliability and exposure to weaknesses that we've experienced since our move to testnet last month or at the end of December. We scaled the environment up significantly from what it had been operating on in the DevNet environments. And we've also scaled it down as well. And as we play with and modify these environments, we're trying to simulate real world situations. And as we do this, we're improving the quality of the product, as well as we're reducing the level of effort which will be needed once the final mainnet release candidate hits testnet, because we're getting things out of the way right now. And so I'm excited with this roadmap for platform because the end is in sight and the path is quite clear for us. As we look at mobile, our final section of our roadmap, and mentioned in the earlier mobile slide, we have improvements this quarter to our Android Dash wallet, including the ability to buy Dash with Visa cards outside of the US and convert other cryptocurrencies into Dash with wallet swaps. The majority of our work, though, will be to support the ongoing alpha program, which has been receiving very favorable responses. Honestly, the app looks fantastic. I'm biased in my role, but these are, this is similar to the feedback that we're getting. The app looks fantastic. It's very responsive, and we have usernames, which is what we've been waiting for. So the iOS version should be on testnet shortly, and then we'll just continue to iterate this to keep up with the changes included in the platform protocol. And we have 2 additional features to develop prior to going to mainnet, and that is invitations and transaction notes. So in summary, you're looking at the most current roadmap with a greater level of clarity than we have ever had of the finish line. Hang in there a little longer. If you're a developer, get involved in the Dash Incubator, please. If you're an enthusiast, get involved in the DashPay Alpha program. Share it with your friends. What we're doing right now will fundamentally change the ease at which users can participate in crypto. And as recent events have shown to all of us, the world is definitely ready for trustless, decentralized solutions. With that, I'll conclude the tech section and turn it back over.
All right. Thank you, Bob. The next section that we'll go through is the growth team, and Ernesto will take some of the initial slides here, and then I'll jump in at the end.
Hello. Thank you, Ryan. My name is Ernesto Contreras, and I'm the head of business development for Dash Core Group. I'll walk you through the initiatives we did for growth during the last quarter. This quarter, we consolidated growth around our key strategic areas of opportunities. And we also improved measurement tools to understand how they are having a positive impact on Dash usage and adoption overall. On this slide, you will see that we worked on Venezuela, trading, and other opportunities. On the Venezuela front, our main goal is to get real usage and prove that crypto is not only a reserve mechanism, it can also be a tool to be used on the everyday life. On the trading front, you will see that we have developed Dash as an option for trading in markets, and something that can be a good complement for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies, slow confirmation times or high fees. And on the other column for growth, you will see that we've been exploring what other activities have a high impact of usage in the Dash network. I will start with Venezuela. We launched a series of activities there, and I will start by talking about our launch of the fiat pairs local cryptos. Local cryptos is the custodial exchange peer-to-peer platform in the world. They have a heavy focus in Latin America and in Venezuela in particular, and we partner there because of our shared goals. To support the Bolivar pair with Dash, we held an activity that we called Crypto Campus Tour. This Crypto Campus Tour took us around 4 of the largest universities in the country, where we presented in front of more or less 300 people and shared with them how they could acquire and sell Dash directly on the platform. The result was very good. Local cryptos grew user base, and Dash has been constantly growing during the 3 months that they've been on the platform. The next activity I want to talk about is the Excelsior Gamma launch. Excelsior Gamma is one of the top supermarket chains in the country, and they have 26 stores with around 200 cashiers in Caracas alone. This is the first of the Megasoft Crypto Buyer integration activities, and to support this launch, Dash Core Group organized training for over 500 cashiers in the store. During this training, we learned what moves this market. We understood much more how people are willing to use crypto, and I can be very happy to share that in certain months, we have outperformed all other cryptos in their platform, which is some of the information that the Excelsior Gamma team has shared with us. The next set of activities, the ones in green, where you can see the Minecraft logo and the Black Friday deals, is part of what we've called Dash City project. What we are since we have a lot of places to spend, we are creating ecosystems where people can go and easily use their Dash. We've done a bunch of experiments where we are learning what moves a normal user to use Dash and how they're using it. And as an example, I've brought 2 activities that were a real success. The first one, we spoke to a toy store in Caracas, and we co-organized a discount for one of their toy lines. They sold about 20 units of this over 1 day, which is a lot when you compare that to a couple of transactions they were having per month. So what we are seeing is that when there are certain offers, people that hold Dash are willing to go to a specific place and use it, not only because of the savings, but also because they do not have to suffer the payments problems that we've spoken about in Venezuela. The other side of this Top Dash City promotion is one that we held with Church's Chicken. For their Black Friday activities, we asked them to set a combo that could only be sold with Dash, and we worked alongside Dash Help so people could buy Dash easier at the spot. The result was very good, and we sold more than 1,300 units of these combos to people that had never used Dash before. So the result of this, and what we will be moving forward with this ecosystem type of activities, is that we have a way of exposing Dash to large numbers of users, and we've also discovered a way to have Dash users utilize the Dash with activities. So we'll continue growing these ecosystems in different parts of Caracas and then different parts of the city. And the key aspect there is how we can continue to make it easy for people to acquire and use their Dash. The last part of Venezuela that I want to talk about is the set of activities that our partner Crypto Buyer has done. Crypto Buyer launched a partnership with Pizza Hut nationwide. Starting from November, everybody could go to any Pizza Hut place around the country and use crypto as one of the payments option. And as a complement of this, Crypto Buyer keeps pushing more hotels, more small supermarkets, and other types of merchants. So this is a perfect complement to the ecosystem chains that I've been sharing, that I was talking about. The next growth pillar that
Ernesto, may I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
One thing I'd like to point out is through the experimentation that we've done with some of the promotions is in the past, we've run promotions with deep discounts, funded in part by Dash Core Group and in part by the merchant. Those can be, costly to run. And what we found is that isn't necessary. What is exciting about the recent activities that we've had is, these are entirely funded by the merchants in many cases. And they're incentivized to do so because it attracts consumers to them. It attracts our users to their stores. And the second thing is the discounts don't need to be much in order for people to be motivated. This Black Friday deal was a far cry from some of the 50% off type of offers that we tried in the past. This is the equivalent of more like 10% off. And people flocked to it. And so I think it's about trying different things, experimenting, and seeing what drives consumer behavior changes. And we're finding that it doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be time intensive. And a lot of the benefit in doing them is that it attracts people to a merchant. And that means that the merchant is willing to do more of these discounts or deals. And so we believe there's a path here towards a self-sustaining ecosystem. And I think it's signaling that what we're doing with CrayPay, if you haven't seen the announcement with CrayPay recently, we made an investment through the Dash Investment Foundation. And it's a similar type of transaction. You get a discount of 4 to 6% typically in order to pay with Dash. That's better than a credit card has to offer. And it really incentivizes the merchants to participate, because for that small discount, they can attract new people to their locations. So I think, I just wanted to reemphasize that this is a bigger deal than it sounds like. We're really honing the message and finding things that work to drive behavior change and get people used to paying with crypto.
Thank you, Ryan. And this is exactly what an ecosystem looks like. We have all the components lined up. You can now easily and cheaply acquire Dash through local cryptos. You can go and spend it in a supermarket. And with these ecosystems that we've developed and the activities that we have learned that works, now will enhance people using Dash for their everyday lives. So this is really promising. And we're now going to focus more on making it easy for people to acquire Dash, either because they can buy it easily or because they can receive it as wages or as payments for freelancers and so on. So, Venezuela will keep on growing during all of 2021. And now I want to speak a little bit about what we did for the trading component of our growth part. And you will see that FastPass is a big chunk of what we've done. And I'll speak more on FastPass later, but I want to go into the details of some of the activities we launched. We announced a partnership with Flip.me, which is a crypto-to-crypto swap site where you can go and use Instant Send to change one crypto for Dash and receive it really quickly. Or you can trade your Dash for another crypto and use it as you see fit. Flip.me is part of a company called Holy Transaction, which is a wallet that's been around for more than 5 years, and they have fiat pairs in Europe and Western Europe. So this continues opportunities for traders to use Dash in different ways. We've also run a promotion with CoinSpot, which is the largest exchange in Australia, and we're continuing to partner in Australia and other parts of the world with the largest exchanges to make sure that we have best relations and we can help them grow their Dash user base. And FastPass, we continue to add more services, functions so people can go beyond depositing into exchanges with Instant Send. We held a couple of promotions with Liquid. We announced the capability of getting loans in Binance. We also held a promotion with the bot that runs under the brand Quadency. So now you can organize your trades and have it set automatically, provide liquidity, or you can trade with the bot of Quadency on the exchanges that Quadency is working with. One of them is Liquid, for example, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And we also held several activities, such as an Ask Me Anything with it. So we continue working in growing the FastPass ecosystem, and this continues to show results, as pointed out in the volume slide that Ryan mentioned before. Another very important activity that we held was on the other fronts of growth. With StakeHound, we started our entry point into DeFi with Dash. So basically, StakeHound is a site where you can wrap your Dash and then get this wrap Dash so you can go to Uniswap and use it. This is very interesting, not only because it's work that has been done across the DAO, and I want to give a shout out to Dash Next, to the Dash News Desk, as well as Omar Hamwi, who worked together to make this happen. But this is an opportunity where everyone can send Dash to StakeHound and get in return Stake Dash. Then they can use into the Dash Ethereum liquidity pool in Uniswap and start getting rewards for that. So this is a very interesting experiment that we're running, and this is just the first of many of the growth activities that we will do on DeFi. Another very good project that we continue running is our growth with Ready Raiders. Ready Raiders announced their marketplace, and you can now buy over 200 items on the Ready Raider marketplace. But what's really exciting about Ready Raiders is that Dash is the most used crypto on their platform. It's the second most popular payment method behind Stripe. And Ready Raiders is exploring the possibility of adding NFTs and other more products to their platform. So as you hear, in Venezuela, we've solved the how and the where to spend problem because we gained a deep understanding of what is the situation in there and why people are willing to accept crypto. And now we're focusing on the how to acquire, and we know that it has to be a solution that has no friction and has a good cost. So this cycle of receiving Dash, using it, and then getting some more so you can continue this cycle will continue, will grow. And we continue adding more infrastructure and promotion for our fiat pairs. There's also a very big regulatory component that we will speak about, but I will speak more on it later. Now I want to go to the next slide where we will talk about the trading initiatives. We have evolved into a new phase on our trading strategy as we grow our FastPass network into a financial services ecosystem. As you can see in the graph, we have already built an infrastructure that provides the maximum value for traders that need to move money into an exchange or from an exchange and into other services. We understand that transaction fees for other networks have skyrocketed, and we have seen more and more people use Dash. It is important to note that this is a process of constant evolvement, and this is a growth that will not conclude. So you will see that our focus of growth is on the words that have been underlined. A key activity that I want to highlight is that we have moved our focus from solely focusing on exchanges to add Instant Send. We're now working on getting more and more infrastructure because right now Dash is already listed in almost all major exchanges around the world. So really quickly on each one of these components to provide more flavor and to share a bit more of what we did during all of 2019 and finishing into the launch of FastPass in 2020, and what we will continue to do during 2021. If you see the top circle, you'll see that we're talking about analytic tools, we're talking about bots and tax tools. More specifically, you can now go to or Messari and get trading signals, get trading trends, and understand what is going on in the markets. You can go into Quadency or Hummingbot and use one of their trading bots so you can create liquidity or organize your trades in one of the partner exchanges to work with. Or you can go to blocks.io and check out all your tax liabilities with their tool. You will also see on the circle that is to the right that the other component we're starting to work on is DeFi and getting into some of the decentralized exchanges. The best example is StakeHound, which I have mentioned before. The bottom circle speaks about the infrastructure that is made up of OTCs, loans, staking, custody, options, market makers, derivatives, and futures. We understand that these are tools that are needed for larger trades and for institutional traders. So as of now, we have Prypto or Galaxy Digital as OTC that carry Dash. You can go into Binance and get a Binance loan with your Dash, or you can stake your Dash with it. And the circle that is to the left will show you the promotion and education, which is something that pulls everything together. And that's why we dedicated a lot of Q4 on making education videos and educational blogs alongside all of these partners that I've mentioned, so we can communicate to both the retail user and the institutional users that there is an option for doing your trades across all of these financial services ecosystem. This infrastructure is now ready to be used by and institutional traders, and that's why we have focused on the promotional part. I want to give a shout out to Omar Hamwi, who's been heavily working on making sure that this becomes a reality. Two recent launches on this ecosystem that I want to highlight are StakeHound. And we want to ask the community to support by going into StakeHound and staking a little bit of Dash so we can make sure that we can grow the liquidity on that market and we can start making waves into the DeFi world. And the other part that the other partnership that I want to highlight is the Dash to USD pair that we have on Liquid. Anybody can go right now and trade there. That is, that's for people outside of the US. And you can also connect to Hummingbot or to Quadency and use one of their bots to build liquidity. We need the Dash community to participate on this so we can build up more liquidity and volume. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me or Oman Hamwi, and we'll be happy to walk you through any questions that you might have. As you can see, we have one of the most robust trading ecosystems in all of the altcoin network, and our plan is to grow its user base. So my request is that we go and use it and bring more teams to the DAO so we can keep on growing this financial services ecosystem. We understand that a very important part of this ecosystem, and one to which we have dedicated more and more time, is the regulatory support. We have a cross-functional team working on it, which includes Glenn from finance, Robert from operations, Omar and myself from development, and Ryan as general management. And not to now pass it over to Ryan, who will speak a lot more about the regulatory support and maintenance that we are doing on behalf of the Dash network.
Thank you. Before I start on this slide, I would like to reiterate the importance that when we launch some of these things, it is important for the community to show up and you don't have to put a lot in, but if a lot of us put a little bit into some of these new tools as liquidity or staking or something of that nature, it does help to seed some of those markets. A perfect example where you can have an outsized impact is in the options market. We don't have an options market today. We're going to get one. What would really help with launching one of those is commitments from the community to be able to sell put or call options, at prices that you might buy or sell anyway, right? So if the current price is 115 and you would consider selling a chunk at 140, you might consider generating some income by selling some call options at a price you would have sold anyway. And what we need is a significant amount of that to seed an initial market. And what will happen with that is a trader on the other side of that will purchase a call option at 140, but they may then put a straddle on that and sell another put or call into the market that then has that ripple effect and seeds the market with put and call options at different price points that people can choose from. And so a simple act like that from a few of our whales or even a large group of smaller traders can have a real impact in developing some of these new markets. And these are essential for institutional type traders that need to be able to hedge out certain risks of an overall portfolio and things of that nature. So I think it's important that we can go out, we can pitch these services on integrating Dash. When we do, we need to be putting calls out to the community, and the community needs to take that action. It isn't going to happen if we don't come together as a community. So I just want to reemphasize that point. If you are interested in options, expressing that interest to us and the amount that you would consider doing at a certain price point, we can then use that information to approach some of the providers. And so certainly reach out to our business development team if you would be willing to participate in a program if we were to entice a launch of it. So with that, I'll focus on the regulatory framework here. So as many of you know, we've been working on regulatory issues since really 2019 or 2018, when we addressed some of the SEC concerns that they were expressing to some of the exchanges about Dash's security status. We then proactively shifted to private send, and I'm sure many of you have seen some of the videos we've put out specifically on this, blog posts and other activities that we've done. We've published a number of articles in our regulatory section of our website. So we've been doing a lot of this. It certainly came to the forefront here in December and January when a couple of major events occurred. And going back all the way to October, the Department of Justice in the United States put out a framework paper on cryptocurrencies and named anonymity enhanced cryptocurrencies, included us in that list, and stated that they believed that they were at elevated risk for money laundering and fraud. That obviously is concerning for us to be included in that list and the implications that can have. That had a ripple effect on conversations we were having with other regulators around the world who then referenced that material. Canada practically copied and pasted the statements from the DOJ. And so, we are actively reaching out to regulators pretty aggressively and working as many different angles as we can, getting counsel on this. It is something that we take very seriously. Then with FinCEN, right before the holidays, I think it was the 22nd of December, they came out with a proposed rulemaking for cryptocurrencies and exchanges specifically, and the data that they would need to collect on transactions. And again, referenced Dash as an anonymity enhanced cryptocurrency. We responded to that. We published the response that we gave to the proposed rulemaking. We feel it was a strong response, and we are actively working on this. It really did impact a lot of the team over the holidays. The proposed rulemaking comments were due back the Monday after New Year's, so it did take a significant effort from our legal team and team members to put together a strong response to that. What I will say is none of these statements are saying exchanges cannot list Dash or other anonymity enhanced cryptocurrencies. And in fact, if you read the FinCEN letter or proposed rulemaking very carefully, it actually says, hey, this is an overall trend. You've got anonymity enhanced tools developed for the non-anonymity enhanced cryptocurrencies. They made a reference to the Lightning Network. They made a reference without naming it to Litecoin and the fact that some of the technologies of anonymity enhanced cryptocurrencies can be ported over to existing blockchains. And so what they were doing in that section of the paper was painting a picture that overall there is a greater level of privacy being incorporated into the entire ecosystem. And the way that I read that is, this is the rationale for why we're asking you to collect more information, exchanges, on these transactions that move off your platform. And so I don't think that anything was specifically calling Dash out. Nonetheless, we saw action on January 1st when Bittrex announced that they were delisting Dash, Zcash, and Monero, the three coins that were named specifically in FinCEN's proposed rulemaking. And we've seen this with other smaller exchanges around the world where, although they're not being told to do this, it is a business decision because they may not have the regulatory staff, the compliance staff in-house, and there's incremental costs for them, low volumes of Dash transactions, and so they make the business decision to proactively delist. What I don't think is likely to occur, and what we've heard from some of the other larger exchanges, is there's no directive here. We have the tools in place to be able to comply. We can identify high-risk transactions. We KYC our customers properly. We can manage this. And, I think that is likely to be the case here going forward. There are very few examples anywhere in the globe of outright bans. Japan is one example, but they tend to be fairly rare. And the rest of the jurisdictions tend to state what the requirements are. You have to be able to identify high-risk transactions and so on. And of course, we have those tools available to the exchanges. So I don't think that there's a risk of mass delistings. I know there was a market reaction to this. Our price dropped about 10-15% that day. And I believe that to be an overreaction. And so we are working hard to address it, both the perception issues and the real issues that exchanges are facing, and we're attempting to help as many of them as we can. And so that kind of covers the US situation. And by the way, what happens in the US does radiate around the world, and that's why we're taking it so seriously. I do believe that all the legal arguments for equal treatment to Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin are there. And when we get in front of the right people, they agree with us. Certainly with the exchanges that understand this much better than the regulators, they agree with us. And so the only instances we've encountered are business decisions where they just didn't want to devote the budget to fighting it. So let's talk about some of the other activities that are taking place. We have very full plates right now. NYDFS, they recently, this is New York State Department of Financial Services, they have loosened some of the restrictions about the BitLicense and how to get on their whitelist. They are deferring more of the decision-making power to the exchanges. That has reinvigorated our efforts there. We're now actively engaging in another round of trying to get the necessary support. Once 3 exchanges list you, you are automatically put on the whitelist according to their rules. And so that loosening of restrictions makes it much more possible for us to access that market. We hope to be able to do that. And we are working on it actively. In Europe, we've been seeking legal opinions to be able to present to regulators and make our case there. Certainly less of an issue in Europe currently, but we want to stay ahead of any potential regulations that could affect access to Dash. Australia and Japan, both were countries that that banned Dash. Australia was very brief because Coincheck and Dash were able to work together to educate the regulators and get Dash relisted very, very quickly. In the case of Japan, we've been working a long time to check off the boxes of things that they claim are necessary in order to be considered whitelisted there. Dash really got pulled into a situation of the NEM hack that occurred there, and some bad press that surrounded Dash associated with that, even though the hackers did not use Dash in any way. And so, we're working to educate and address those issues, which are mostly perception issues. And then we've been doing a lot just in general education. We've been reaching out to exchanges. We've been producing videos that we can send to regulators or exchanges, in advance of meeting or to entice them to meet. We produced a great deal of print materials on various topics, ranging from FATF rules to local laws and printed opinions on those. So we've been doing a lot here to try to very aggressively address this issue. And we are actively talking to exchanges, even exchanges that haven't made announcements of anything, just getting a temperature check and understanding how concerned they might be over some of these coming regulations, or how it might affect them, how they might respond to the regulators if anything were to occur in terms of a concern. So we're working very hard on this issue. It has consumed a good portion of business development and Glenn's time and myself, and we are working hard to address it. And the video that we put out last week was really for the community to arm all of you with these arguments as to why there's no justification for treatment of Dash being different than any of our peers that have largely deployed highly similar technologies at this point, CoinJoin implementations on their network. There really isn't a justification for different treatment. Basically, this is a huge body of work, but very important to maintain access to the markets and expand our access into markets we don't currently have access to, like New York and Japan. And we'll continue working on them until we get in those markets. So that's where we're at on that. We're not alone in this fight, by the way. Partners like Perkins Coie and Chainalysis have come out with statements in support of our legal position. These are well-respected organizations in the world of cryptocurrencies, and so we leverage that to the fullest, and we'll continue to identify partners that we can rely on for statements like that one. So with that, I think we can move forward. So our outlook, I think that 2020 was a year where we really turned a corner. I think you saw that in all of our metrics. We really addressed the circulating supply growth issue. We turned around trading volume. We continued to grow transactions. Total payment volume started to increase again. It really was a resurgence year for us. I think it's well-deserved. We've all been working very hard, not just Dash Core Group, I mean the community, all the other teams that are involved in business development, developers of some of our wallets. I'll do a little shout out to the Electrum wallet team because they integrated Private Send this year into their mobile, and that has had a tremendous impact on the usage of that feature. So, I think it takes, all of us working together here. I'm really optimistic about the future here. I recognize that we have, already covered a huge amount of time here, and as streamlined as we tried to be throughout this, there just was a lot of material. I would like to get to the Q&As and cover as many questions as we can. So let's just skip ahead to that. I want to thank the whole team for everything that they've done to prepare for this presentation for you, but also all the work throughout the quarter that they've done and continue to do this quarter. I really like the trajectory, and at times it's been a daunting amount of work, but we've really I think had a standout quarter for a lot of reasons. So with that, I'll pause and let I believe Robert will introduce the process here for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, guys. So right now we are switching to the Q&A session. We have collected a lot of questions. Probably it's the record because so far we have collected 30 of them. I have put 10 of those questions on the slide. The rest will be answered on the forum after the call. If the time allows, but I believe not, we will try to answer questions from the chat. So if you are having any questions, please put them on the chat. If they will not be answered, they will be answered on the forum. So without further ado, let's move on. First question is about the platform. The platform move from Evonet to Testnet seemed to have been a difficult one. DashPay is also not yet on Testnet, almost 1 month after target. How confident are you that the move from Testnet to Mainnet will be smooth as long as sufficient testing on Testnet is done? Is Testnet representative enough for Mainnet in the context of platform deployment and testing? Bob, will you take this one?
Sure, there's a lot packed into that, so I'll try to unpack it a little bit. Well, first off, how did testnet go, and what are we learning from it, and are we expecting the same level of difficulties when we go to mainnet? Obviously, no, we're not expecting the same level of difficulties going to mainnet, and that's the purpose of getting out ahead of this and getting to testnet at the point that we did. So we expected it to have challenges. They're definitely better to experience now as opposed to waiting until feature complete and doing it all in more of a serial or sequential fashion. The things that I look at is how well the team responds and how quickly they're able to determine root cause and remediate the issues that are found. From my experience in large scale environments, that's critical, and we've done a very nice job. The team's done a really nice job on that, and we'll continue to have problems, and we will continue to remediate those as quickly as possible, and they are our highest priority. So it was intentional to go to testnet, and looking back, I'd say the fact that we've had problems tells us that it was the right time to do it as well. There's things that we're learning from this, and obviously we are, in essence, the master node operators on the network of testnet, because the majority of the nodes, the great majority of the nodes are managed by us in the AWS environment. And so we're going to be able to better inform the master node operators on the various scenarios that could arise and ensure that we have the proper levels of reliability and durability. As far as DashPay being ready, the wallet in the alpha program, not to say that it's not critical to hit dates. Obviously it is. We'll prioritize quality over that. The remediation efforts of testnet definitely delayed it a bit. But the Android, as I announced earlier, the Android version is on testnet. iOS will be coming soon. And as far as level of confidence of when we do move to mainnet, will it be smooth? Yes, I am confident that it will be smooth, and that is why we're doing what we're doing today. I think there's an industry standard as far as using testnet, and that it will be representative of mainnet, but the scope of our testing has to be significantly broader and deeper than it was when the testnet nodes only ran core, instead of what I'll call core plus platform. And so it does make the environments different. There's different situations that can occur, but I have confidence in the team and confidence in the fact that we will take the requisite steps to make sure it is smooth. And every time we have one of these incidents, we'll learn from it and build in the levels of reliability that are needed.
Nice. Thank you, Bob. Let's take another one. How many usernames can you have on Dash platform? Can you have multiple from one account? The question came from Fo. Yeah,
there's a significant amount of flexibility to have one main name and then numerous aliases pointing to the main name. However, we'll lean on the DashPay wallet to set the standard for how we expect the typical user to work. So there's ways to access the platform directly, but typical users will be using the DashPay wallet. So in our initial release, a single username will be associated with each wallet. And what that means is a wallet and its associated mnemonic. You could have multiple wallets on the same device as we roll out DashPay wallet to mobile. So a person could have multiple wallets on the same device. It would require logging out, logging back in with the other mnemonic. And with each mnemonic, there would be a single username. So it is a possibility, but not within the wallet in our initial release. We're gonna make it intentionally that the user experience is, I have one wallet and my wallet is my username. Cool. And the next technical questions we are having came from our beloved Dash granny, Dante Stefana. Why doesn't the core wallet have username capabilities? Yeah, this is just merely a factor of strategic priority of mobile for our first implementation, and you can expect usernames in the core wallet, the core desktop wallet in the future. Sure. Number 4, highly anticipate the distribution of Dash usernames. Can you specify how you will open the market? Can 1 billion humans register their name on the first day? Will masternode owner get a first move? Will there be an auction or a slow mode? Can you apply for more than one username per mobile phone, or you can also register via Dashcore desktop
multiple times that a question from Sash, actually multiple questions from Sash.
Yes, so I'll take this one. There are multiple ideas about how we may restrict or not restrict the registration of usernames. You know, we answered the last part of this question, which is, can you apply for more than one username per mobile phone? It's technically possible, but you would have to log out and create a new mnemonic, and you know, you could only use one at a time. So, you know, it would be a lengthy process to be able to register more than one from a single device. And so as a consequence, probably most people won't do that as part of this initial release. Now, the trade-offs that we need to assess and make as we're evaluating the options to perhaps give masternode owners a first mover advantage, or so they can claim the name that they want, or some type of other restrictions that on day one launch. What we need to do is evaluate those, because they all have a different development timeline. They all have a different effect on the flexibility of people to register names that they want, effectiveness in terms of avoiding spamming of claiming of new usernames. And we need to trade those things off. We're kind of in the initial exploratory phase on this, because it isn't absolutely necessary for us to have a solution to this to move to mainnet. Any task that is associated with moving to mainnet is the first thing we're going to do. And this is kind of one of those items where if the right resource frees up while we're still on testnet and still have time to address this in a meaningful way, we'll take that on. Can a billion humans register on the first day? I don't think that's likely, and I don't think even the network would have the capacity. We'd have to expand the maximum block size just to handle more than 4-5 million transactions a day or something. That's our upper limit right now. So I think we hope that there's a robust response, and people move quickly to acquire the official DashPay wallet and claim the name that they're passionate about. But these decisions have not yet been finalized. There's several ideas on how we can do it, and it's just a question of how much time do we want to devote to it, how much of an impact that would have on preserving names for people and so on. But we'll probably do something minimal to make sure that there's an opportunity to claim the name that you want.
Thanks, Ryan. Question number 5. I don't see any commit from Alexander Block for many months. Is he still working for Dash?
Good question. Codablock, as we know him, is not developing full-time at DCG at this moment, but he is actively collaborating with the other core developers in the project. As an example, in Q4, he was involved in design reviews and code reviews of some new development, and so he's active in the project, but not active as a full-time developer. And appreciate, he's active in Slack, so you may not be seeing it in GitHub changes, but yeah, he's still active with the core devs, and appreciate his continued commitment to Dash.
Very well. Then next question. Have DCG proactively approached Binance to educate them on FastPass? Or if not, why?
Yeah, I'll take this one. This is Ernesto. Yes, we proactively reach out to every major exchange that does not have instant send or chain locks to educate them on how it works and how they could benefit from it. We have seen that there's an increased volume on exchanges that decide to improve upgrade their Dash to no confirmations using instant send, or 1 or 2 confirmations with chain locks. And it's a matter of the exchange aligning their internal capabilities and their business model to whether they want to upgrade. We have constant contact with the teams of Binance and with the teams of other exchanges to try to on upgrading to instance or chain locks so they can become a FastPass accredited exchange. But it is ultimately up to them to see when they want to do, or if they want to do, these upgrades. In the meantime, we'll continue reaching out to some of the Binance teams around the world. And if you guys have any connection or lead, we'll be more than happy to talk to that lead and see if that could finally move Binance from the number of confirmations they have now, I believe it's 10, to at least 1 or 2, which would significantly increase the trading capabilities there.
And some of the things that the community can do here is to express an interest in it. You know, once a month, send an email to Binance's support desk and say, hey, we want to see Instant Send integrated. If they hear the demand, it changes the business case for them. They begin to assign a greater value to performing this work. And it gives the business development type people or the revenue type folks that are involved in these exchanges ammunition to, you know, when they're talking to the security team that needs to sign off on these things. And the security team may be saying, well, I can't quite identify any problem with it, but I can't get comfortable with it either. My job is on the line here if I integrate this and there's a double spend. So, you know, there's politics in these large organizations. There's business cases that need to be made. There's prioritization against you know, what their resources are working on. You can actively impact this by just marking on your calendar once a month, you know, sending off an email and saying, hey, why haven't you done this yet? You know, it's a terrible, you know, other exchanges have a better user experience with Dash. And so make it known.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ernesto. Let's move on. Does DCG Current have a war chest for future bear markets? If not, do they plan to creating one when the market returns in favor of Dash? The question came from Dash Nobi.
I mean, I'll take it, or Glenn, you could take it.
Why don't you take it, Ryan? I think I've had some audio issues on my end. So yeah, if you can take it, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. So yes, we have been building a war chest. We shared our financials on the call, so I won't go into great detail here, but this is the healthiest Dash core group has been in the last 3 years, I think, at this point. Yeah, it's really been since early 2018 that we've had as much reserves, as many months worth of expenses of reserves as we have right now. And that's really allowing us to, you know, plan out our resources a bit further in the future. And we want to, we currently have somewhere around 3.6 months worth of expenses if our income went to 0 today. Of course, the price of Dash isn't going to drop to 0, but it gives you a sense of how long we could persist in a bear market. We'd really like to get that out to 6 months worth of reserves so that, you know, even a long sustained bear market, we could continue to develop our roadmap. As you all know, you know, the last 3 years we have cut staff, and we've both actively cut staff. We've had people volunteer, you know, their salary and basically turn into volunteers for the project for periods of time. And we've, you know, as people have left the DCG, those roles aren't necessarily replaced. And what effect that has is really affects our ability to continue to do business development, continue to invest in marketing. Our marketing staff is basically we're replacing our one marketing role at this point. Our development staff is a lot smaller than it was a couple years ago. So, it does kind of slow down the project as a whole. And so we want to be able to sustain those. We've done a good job of kind of managing the bull run that we're in now to kind of sock that away. So we are in a much healthier position, and we have good rules in place about when to cut costs, how healthy we need to be before we're adding any type of costs that are ongoing run rate costs. And so we've really learned through these up and down cycles what it takes to manage through that. And that's what we've, I think, got in place right now.
Fantastic. Thank you for this information, Ryan. Question number 8. Many companies define annual and quarterly objectives and key results, or OKRs, if you will. Is it something that is being done for DCG? For each objective, there should be some metrics that define the success. If these OKRs already exist, can they be shared with masternode owners, and quarterly reports are organized around them? From Awesome Dash.
In a decentralized network like Dash, having the authority to assign an overall goal for the network as a whole is a little more challenging, because there's no one person or organization that has the authority to say what those things are. What Dash Core Group attempts to do is communicate what our goals are or our priorities are for what we're delivering to the network, and then report back on what we're able to accomplish. As far as objectives, we do have objectives that are assigned to each team. We go through that process both annually and quarterly. Some of those objectives, especially in like the business development area, involve sensitive information that our partners don't necessarily want us to reveal. And some of the data that we do collect from them is collected with the understanding that we're not going to share it with anybody because it's their data. An example there is some of the payment processors. And so it becomes difficult to be completely transparent even at the DCG level. We do track a number of goals internally. I'd say, a lot of those are, install this new process, or, develop, a certain new campaign or something like that. And they're probably, granular enough where it wouldn't make a lot of sense to share them here as part of the quarterly, only because they're rather mundane types of tasks and things that we're tracking against, but support that overall set of objectives. Personally, I think that it's more valuable for us to kind of share what we accomplished, what our roadmap is, compare what we accomplished against the roadmap. So a lot of those things are being shared that are kind of at the right level for the community, or are things that we actually can share. Completing an integration to a specific partner, we can't really talk about that stuff before it happens if we have an agreement with an NDA with them. So there's some things we just can't share. There's some data that we're able to collect but not disseminate. There's some objectives that are just mundane in nature. And so we use good judgment and share what we think is important, which is the development roadmap and what our goals are in terms of the areas that we're focusing on. In business development as an example, and deliver against those things. So hopefully that gives the community enough insight into what we're doing and whether we are delivering the value that you guys are looking for from us.
Great. So let's quickly do number 9 and then number 10. This one is coming from Foxtrot. Understandably, DCG are quite busy. However, with all that's happening with Dash Platform, DashPay, and on quite a few other fronts, communication from DCG is relatively low. Would it be too much to ask for a scheduled 30 minutes Q&A session once a fortnight, month? This is one of 4 questions here raising a similar question. Bob, Dana, and Ryan have all been mentioned. It's quite apparent that we don't know who is taking the lead from DCG on two-way community engagement.
Yeah, I agree with these comments. So first, I'll say this. I think the last 2.5 months have been some of the most challenging in terms of demands that the job has placed for a lot of different reasons. There was a lot of unanticipated regulatory work that came forward over the last couple of months in particular. The development team pushed incredibly hard to meet their commitment to the community of TestNet. And they did it. It was, it took people working over Christmas, and it has been a big push across the entire team. At the same time, a lot of our communication resources, as Fernando announced on the last quarterly call, he's stepping away from the project. We are in the midst of a new marketing head search, and that is progressing well. We're in second and third round interviews at this point with Dash Core Group. That's the portion of the process that takes place after the recruiting firm does their portion of the interviewing and so on. And so we hope to up our capacity on the one hand for communication and PR and all of that type of activity that function is responsible for. In the meantime, other people are stepping in to keep the lights on with the website and a number of other things. And so we're doing our best to try and kind of keep things together while doing this search on top of everything else. It has been challenging. I recognize fully that we need to do more on communication than what we've done over the last quarter for sure. And I actually was already planning to initiate some type of 30 minutes or an hour every other week through a variety of different platforms. And I need to plan out time zones to make sure that people have access to both the platform they want and the time zone that they want periodically to be able to ask live questions and actually interact. I think it's important, and it's not just important for me to do it, but there's other members of the team that I hope will join me in making more of an effort here. So I think there's been a combination of just an incredible workload, a decrease in capacity around communication, and a lot of unanticipated efforts that we weren't even planning for that just disrupted everything. And we haven't done a good job of keeping up with the community. That's one of the pieces that fell out to the bottom that I'm not proud of, and plan to devote more time going forward. So the comment is spot on, and we're going to do something about it.
Great. And the last question. It has been noticed that Dash Foundation donations address still receives the payments, even though the funds have not moved from there in over 2 years. What is the actual status of Dash Foundation? It came from Splavik. Will you take it, or should I cover it, Ryan?
Yeah, I think you could cover that one probably better than me.
Yeah, so we are in the process of removing Dash. Actually, the website of Dash Foundation has been taken off from the web. There is no website anymore, so it's very difficult to find the Dash Foundation address. Probably the received payment that happened was unfortunate action done by some old community member or the person who made a mistake, and we are in the process of dissolving foundation. Fernando is leading the process as he was leading all of the legal procedures in the foundation, and the foundation will be dissolved as soon as possible. So the process is in place, and the legal procedures are in place. We are just waiting for the process to be done and finished. And that's it. This was the last question, actually, from the list we have collected. On the slide, as I mentioned before, the other questions will be responded on the forum. And because we are over 25 minutes, almost 25 minutes late, I would like to sincerely thank you for participation in this call. Thank you very much to all the speakers and people who prepared the information for our community to share. Thank you very much for your efforts. Thanks developers for all of the hard work done in Q4 to make the testnet release happening. Thanks, Andy, by the way. Cheers. Thank you very much for what you are doing on the Dash incubator. And of course, thank you very much for our community members for their endless support, for your endless support and the participation in this call. And with this, we can wrap it up. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you very much.